Hi there and welcome to Kokedama 101. We're going to be making a succulent kokedama today. First thing you need to do is prep your workspace. So you need some tablecloth down along with some sphagnum moss and soil. You roughly need 2 handfuls of soil and about the same moss. You want to spread it out. You don't want the moss to be too thick, so discard anything that you don't need and spread it out until you get a nice fine layer there on the mat. Okay, so next thing you're going to do is take your plant and you're going to agitate the roots slightly to remove any excess soil. You can do that over the soil that you've got there, or you can do it over the moss that you've got put to the side. It doesn't really matter as long as you're just dropping it back into your plate because you're likely to use it in your kokedama anyway. Pop your plant to the side and then we're going to divide our soil into 2 lumps. And we're going to take our palm in a cup shape and we're going to collect enough soil to fill 1 palm. So divide it into 2 and we're going to create a cup shape with our hand and pop that soil into it. So basically press down, we're basically making a cup shape or half a ball in our hand. So pop the soil in there, press down, make a little well for the roots, and then pop the succulent on the end of your fingers to support it, and then pop the rest of the soil on the other side. At this point, we're going to focus on pressing and turning our plant in our palms, keeping that cup shape with our hands and adding any soil where we haven't had it before or we need to visibly cover different parts of the root to create that ball shape. Keep in mind that you don't want to bury your succulent either. So think of it a bit like you're burying it out in the garden. If you bury it up above its leaves, it's going to rot and die. The same is true of a kokedama. So being just mindful of that when you're creating your ball shape. And as you get towards the end of that, you will find water is released as you press and turn. This is completely normal and needs to happen for the kokedama to come together in your hands. So do get in there, pressing really hard. The water will fall onto the tray. That's why we've got it there for you. And the next step is going to be to add your moss. So once your kokedama is not falling apart in your hands, take half the moss on your tray, pop it on as shown, and then we're going to compress and turn and do exactly the same thing. Now the moss will be much harder to do because it does fall apart, but basically if you keep that compress and turn shape using your finger and your thumb to create a C shape and press down around the top of the plant, you will find eventually as you squeeze the water out of it, the plant will come together in a ball shape on its own, even with the moss. So you will be able to hold it without it falling apart. If it is falling apart, you need to compress and turn some more. Continue to do this until you're satisfied with it, using your thumbs to basically pinch in around the top and make sure that you are not covering the base of the plant. And then we're going to take our string. So at this point, we're going to do a wrap. You will see at the end of the video that we go through this again with a little bit more detail, just because it's a bit easier to see. So at the moment, all we need to do is pull the string around to secure the moss and soil in place. At this point, this is not about decoration. This is about making sure that it all stays in there. So as you do start to go, you might find spots that are not covered in moss that dropped off when you initially did your first compress and turn. Totally normal. Pick it up, pop it in, and then secure it in place with the string. This is not going to look pretty and you won't see this from the outside afterwards, which is completely fine. We just need to hold the moss ball together at this stage. So just inspect it, make sure you've got it all there, give it a shake. If anything falls off, do another wrap around with your string. Otherwise, it's time to go ahead with the next step. At this point, we're going to hold the kokedama in one hand and we're going to take our string up and underneath, finding the center point on the bottom. As we bring the string back towards us at the front, we're going to go up the front, around the top of the plant, and we're going to come back down on the other side of the plant, turning the kokedama just a little bit as we go. That's going to leave 1 string in place, which is basically going to be your guide string. So I'll show you again. We're going to pull the string up towards the front, over the top and around the plant, and then back down to the bottom, finding the center point again on the other side. So this is going in a diagonal roughly across the top of the plant. Then when we go to do our next step, we're going to take the string and we're going to repeat it, but this time we're going to come up the front 5 millimeters to either the left or the right. It doesn't matter whichever is more comfortable for you, as long as you're doing the opposite on the reverse. So come up, across by 5 millimeters, duck across the top, so crossing over the last wrap that you've done at the top, back down to the bottom, making sure that on the reverse side of the plant, you are going 5 millimeters in the opposite direction to what you did on the front. And we're going to continue with that motion as we work around the plant. You do want this to be reasonably tight as you work, otherwise your string will get loose, and remembering that as the kokedama dries, it shrinks a little bit, so you don't want your rope to be so loose that when it dries, it starts to fall apart on you. So nice and tight. Compress as we go, and we're turning slightly on each wrap. So you will do this naturally, so you don't have to try to turn it, but you will find as you bring the string back up over the top and down the other side, because you are moving at 5 millimeters either to the left or the right, whichever is more comfortable with you, you will naturally start to turn the plant in that direction as you work. Continue to do this until you've gone round at least 2 times. Some people like to go around several. The only thing to consider really is the frequency that you'll be watering this plant. The more times you go around doing this securing of the rope, the more times you will seal it off. So if you go around once, you'll just have one collection of ropes around. If you go around twice, it'll be more dense. And as you continue to go around, it'll start to look a bit more like a basket or a ball of string. And then once you can no longer see the sphagnum moss, that's when you absolutely have to stop. But some people will do just one. Others will do 2 or 3. 2 or 3 is usually pretty good for this class. So continue until you've done that and you're happy with the aesthetic look and feel of your plant. We're going to go around a couple more times for the sake of this video just to show you, but again we are going to come back to this at the end using a white twine, a decorative twine, and at that point you'll be able to more easily see exactly how to do the wrap, because it will be contrasting against the brown of the twine that we used for the first couple wraps. So what we're going to do now is we're going to pick up our other string, our contrast string, whatever the decorative wrap that you want to use on this particular plant is going to be, and we're going to use our finger to secure that at the base of our plant. So as you can see there at the base of the plant, pop your finger on to hold it, and then you're going to continue with your wrapping in the same style that you've been following, except this time you'll be able to see it. So this one is slightly more important in the process, but it's also easier to see. So as you work, you'll be able to see whether you are in fact doing the process correctly, and if you're not, you can just unwrap and keep going back a couple steps and start again. So bringing that string up from the bottom, jumping over the top of the last string and coming down on the opposite side on the back. So again, you could go left or right, it really doesn't matter, whatever you're more comfortable with, as long as on the front you're going one direction and on the back you're going the other. So you can see here that the string has been wrapped around one side of the kokedama. We've sped this up a little bit just so that you can see it, but basically that's one of the main errors that happens when people are in class. The other one that happens is when people crisscross over the top. So instead of following the pattern around the plant, they go to one side, then to the other, then to one side, then to the other, and you start to get this sort of V shape on the side of the plant. So both of those are errors that are going to stop your kokedama from coming together. And if the answer to both is to basically unwrap and to find the spot where you went wrong and then to start over from that area. So it's fine if you've already wrapped it all, just unwrap it, bring it back, but do make sure that you're unwrapping to get back to the spot that you want to get to. The next step then is to snap off or cut off rather, with a pair of scissors. Once you're done and you're happy with the shape and look and feel of your kokedama, cut them off, and then we're going to twist the 2 strings that are left together. Remember, we've been wrapping with 2 strings. So twist them slightly, flip your kokedama upside down, and then we're going to use the blunt pair of scissors, once securing that in place with your finger, to pop the 2 strings inside the plant. So basically hold it down with your finger once you've wrapped it up. It just makes it a little bit easier to manipulate. There's no real technique to that other than it's helpful to push it in. And then use the blunt end of a pair of scissors to pop it into the plant. You will get rid of that tail that you see there right through until the end, and then that is it, you're done.